Ladies and gentlemen, let me sketch a scenario for you. You just played a game, you lost the game, you missed some idea, and when you look back on the game, you think to yourself, oh, how could I have missed that? And I'm gonna exactly tell you why you missed that. You might have seen the trees for the forest. You might have thought, oh, this ruins my pawn structure, let me do something else, and that appears to be not the right answer, and the pawn structure doesn't matter. Or, oh, let me go for this attack, and you hang your queen. So you don't basically know what's going on in position. And to prevent that, there is this methods where you first get this helicopter view of the position. And you do that by first looking at your opponent moves. So then we look at our own. So let me explain better by using a concrete example. First, we have this position. Our opponent just played queen here, check. I don't know where it came from. And we first think to ourselves, what is this guy's plan? Well, obviously, um, he wants to promote the pawn. That's a target for him to get his pawn there. He wants to trade down and then, you know, allow us this tactic because in the end he promotes. So his idea is to promote. And if I don't do anything now, I go back, he wins this and he promotes. And the king is not in time to stop that. So, without having a look here, you might be tempted. You might be very tempted by taking here, giving this check, and when the king moves back, takes, and you think to yourself, maybe I can push this pawn without ever seeing that he is first. So that's not a solution. And now that we have gained the knowledge of our opponent, we can look what are our targets, what can we do, what are these downsides of the position. We look at targets of his position. And we can see the knight is undefended. The king is kind of vulnerable, and the queen is on the same line as the king. And therefore, because our queen is also there, the queen is pinned. And this pin of the queen appears to be detrimental because we can give this check. So now that we've gained all the knowledge in the world about our position, we looked at our worst piece. We looked at our opponent's plans. We looked at our opponent's targets. We looked at our own targets. We looked at pins, movable squares, restrictions of movement. And we can see that this is probably what we have to play for. So not this tactic, but this tactic. And now we start looking for checks, captures, and threats. We see that this capture doesn't work, but this capture does. This check does. Because he cannot take with the king, because it's defended by the king. And he cannot take with the queen, because the queen is pinned. And after we give this check, we simply win the queen. And our opponent is not intended to promote, because our queen stops it. So by simultaneously looking for our opponent plan and a plan of our own, we gain the winning hand. And I skipped around with Puzzle Rush to get to more complicated things to see where to get a real scenario which you might even be useful in games. So here we first look at our opponent's things and we don't stop there. Even though, something might look very threatening, we should continue. And I say this to you guys, but I also say this to myself because I don't do that either. All right, so let's see. Bishop could take here. But I think the main idea is here to promote. But this will have to be prepared with something like rook a8. It's a bit slow because we can always take. So I don't see anything super dangerous at the moment for our opponent. Plan. Now we look at our own. Well, what is undefended? Well, this queen is undefended. This pawn is undefended. This pawn is attacked once, defended once. We could target it again. Um, well, the pawn is pinned. So this is actually attacked twice and defended once. And yeah, that's about it. And by far, this looks the most juicy. Like this takes time. Nothing here is immediately, nothing here is immediate. I mean, we could try to go for this one, but it takes a move. But this is already there. So after we take, now we calculate. We check. Queen is obligated to take because it's undefended. And then rook takes and king goes here. And then we can take the bishop, which is also undefended, which I did not notice. But do you notice how knowing the targets of our opponent just walks into the solution? We see this as a target, we see this as a potential target. Okay, it was defended by the queen. We see this as a target, we see this as a target. And we automatically come up with this. It has to come to you. So yeah, let's continue this way. So first off, our opponent. What is he planning to do? Well, knight is undefended and attacked twice. So he's probably planning to take. Why didn't he take on the previous move? Because if he takes, he would lose the queen. So he steps out of the pin and wants to take with the queen, which also hints at this pin. Now, bishop could potentially do something. The rooks aren't doing that much. The knights are not doing that much. There is a bit of a pawn store looming, and our king is still in the center of the board, but I don't see anything immediate. So I've basically looked at our opponent's threats, and I see nothing. And now we can go on our own. Now we can go look at our own plans, and we see that the king is a bit vulnerable here. This pawn is undefended, this pawn is undefended. This pawn is attacked once and defended once. So if you add another attacker, it could be detrimental. This pawn is attacked once, defended once. So the queen is defending two squares at the same time. So this already hints to me that this queen is a bit overworked. So now we look at checks, capture, and threat. And look at this. Knight, rook takes, queen takes, knight here. These were all things we saw in our helicopter view, so to say. And we saw that this already immediately works splendidly. We could look for better. Maybe knight takes is also a good option. It doesn't appear to be. Um, so yeah, oh yeah, queen b4 doesn't work because of queen here, or even knight here actually, because queen here would lose the queen. Yeah, so it's knight. It's not knight takes, it's rook takes and this. But notice how easy that was. Okay, we're still in a low range of puzzle rush, but analyzing a position from a strategical standpoint, starting off with looking at our opponent's plan gives you already a big head start, in my opinion. So our opponent is now attacking here. He's also kind of attacking here. You can trade it off. The king is still in the middle of the board, so is ours, by the way. In our position, you should also check is what could he target? Well, he could target the queen. He could target this pawn, which is undefended. This knight could be attacked again. This pawn is also weak. We have to be aware of these things. So now that we did that, we looked at our opponent's plan. We can also look at our own. This knight. is already attacked and not defended. Well, we could also take here. And that's about it. That's about all the targets I see. Okay, this rook is undefended. This rook is undefended. And yeah, that's about it. That's about it. So there are only just two moves I just see from the start, right off the bat, after analyzing all our options. And by far the most promising one is knight takes on c6, because here we just sacrifice a queen for basically nothing. So the conclusion here is it doesn't work. When we take here, we attack the queen again. So let's say takes. Takes. Notice how there are no checks in the position. We could take again, and we've gained a piece and a queen for a queen. We could take again, but then we take here, and it's two pieces and a queen for one piece and a queen. And you can also go back, and then we can also go back, and that's game. So again, we noticed this from the start. From our helicopter view, we already saw the best move. And then we just looked if there were any checks. There weren't. This was the capture. You could potentially look for threats. I don't know how you attack anything here. Uh, but this is how it goes. Now we did not spot this, but I think we can just go back, still attack the queen, and still the same applies. So after takes, takes, and if he goes back, we go back. If he takes, we take. And again, in this scenario, you're looking at his plan again. And what has changed? Well, this has become a target, whilst this is still a target. And the solution to that is to get away and re-establish what was happening in the previous position and get this round. Here I won't mention anything because we clearly see that this is a mate, so we just go for it. Um, yeah, and here I could almost say the same, but we do have to notice that this is obviously mate. And you can almost not stop it. Well, you could stop it with something like queen here, queen here. So we look at our opponent's plan, but we also have to look at our own. So we don't stop there. We don't automatically play something like rook g6. We have to also look at our own, and we can see that this is undefended, this is defended once and attacked once, and the king has no squares. And especially this king having no squares could be beneficial to us. We check the checks. Oh yeah, this is undefended and this is undefended, by the way. A lot of undefended things. And after and this, that's mates. So that's what I saw from the start, but still good to check everything, especially for these types of things. Because now it's white to move. We see the rook is undefended, aiming to take this pawn. There's also a threat of a2 check, to which we have to go back, and then he takes some positional prowess in the position, or you can even take the rook. The rook is undefended, also good to notice. And now when we look at his position, okay, his rook is undefended, but it's very hard to target this rook because you only have a rook. If we had a knight, for example, we could look for forks. If we have a bishop, we could look for pins or diagonals. But here, the rook is actually not really a target because it's not targetable. And the king actually has no squares except this one right now. And we could simply take away this opportunity. Um, so we see king has no squares. And if we move the rook here, he still has no squares. If you move it here, he has no square. So we move it here, and that's actually mate because this is defended by the pawn. And that's it. Okay, a little bit harder of a position. Here, queen is a target. There might be something here, some at some point, but not at the moment. And we that's about it. You also can see here that it looks dangerous, but it's not because you cannot really push for b4. Well, you could now, if it was white to move, you could push for b4, takes, and this pawn is walking, but at the moment it's not really an issue. This bishop is not really doing anything on this diagonal, and yeah, that's about it. For us, we can see that this bishop is undefended. The queen is attacked once and defended once indirectly by the bishop. And that's about it. And when we look at the captures after takes, we see that this is still undefended. This is also still undefended. We can swoop in here with the rook, gaining one of these two bishops. All right. We're at 27 now, but notice how this goes. We could go on. Let's go on to 30, and then we'll continue with this tutorial in the next video. So let's do 3 more. All right. So here, our opponent having great control over this file. You know, his long-term plan could be to somehow get here and mate me with the other rook. But that's for a very later stage or when we open this up. So for example, if you take here, this would be mate. That's very important to notice. Now what I also notice is that this rook is undefended, this rook is undefended, this knight is undefended, and the king has one square to go to at the moment. So king, vulnerable, rook, undefended, knight undefended, and this rook undefended. But this rook is not really a target as we cannot really attack it decently enough, right? If you go king b1, you could just swoop around to the other side. So it's really about this. It's really about this. And I have to admit, I don't see anything at the moment. And this is kind of where we resort to a more tactical view. And we go look for the checks. So we give this check, there's knight takes. And I don't see a continuation. If we give this check, there is only one move, which is king g8. So we from having this as an option, we now switch to having this as an option. And here on g8, our opponent really has no squares, basically. So this looks very promising because it restricts the queen even more than it was already. And after we can go, oh, after this, we can look for the same thing. Okay, the king is now here. Now he's controlling new squares, sort of, or looking at new squares. And we can go through the process again. We can give a check. Again, knight takes. That's not good. But we now can also give this check. King goes here. And now we can give this check. And notice how this knight is defended by the rook. And the rook, which gives a check, being defended by the knight, restricts these squares, and everything is covered, which means it's probably mate if it's not attacked. And it is. So here, here, and this is mate. So here we notice that, yeah, the king is just use one of our observations to use as a benefit. It took some time, but yeah. Here, your pattern recognition should be firing, and you should see, okay, even if it's not, um, you should see that the king has not squares. Rooks are all defended each other. The queen is not really defended, but it's not really a target either. But the king has no squares. We get this check. He has to go out. We go back. He has to go in. We sacrifice the queen. He cannot take with the king because the knight is defending it. So he has to take with the rook, and this is smothered mates. Oh, wait. I want to do this first, but we can already do this. And he cannot take with the king. So he has to take with the rook. Yeah, why did I even want to delay it? Exactly. You never play on autopilot, which also this matters does. Let's do the last one. Getting a bit tired here. And we can see here that the king again has no squares. Well, actually it does. We suddenly notice. He actually is trying to mate me some way somehow, but I don't really see it. He's attacking the knight. He has some potential checks here. It's our turn to move, however. And we can see that if we give this check, he can take here. But if we give this check, that's just over and out, and that's 30. Okay, guys. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.